Hello, everybody. My name is Max, and welcome to another B2 First speaking lesson. In this lesson, we're going to learn what you have to do in order to get full score in the discourse management. So this criteria is not very difficult. I'm going to explain this in this video. So without any hesitation, let's begin. All right, so let's see what discourse management is. So discourse management, first, let's try to read it. We can divide it into, let's say, three different sections. The first part says produces extended stretches of language with very little hesitation. Contributions are relevant, and there is a clear organization of ideas. Uses a range of cohesive devices and discourse markers. So these are the things that you have to learn. First of all, what exactly extended stretches of language means. Little hesitation, let's say contributions are relevant, clear organization, cohesive devices, discourse markers. What are these words and what do they mean? And we're going to take a look at all of them right now because they're really important. If you want to get 5 scores, you need to know them and you need to provide some, let's say, proper language for each of them in order to get the 5 scores for discourse management. So first of all, what you have to understand is the word coherence and cohesion. Now, these two words are, or let's say these two are completely, let's say, similar in some aspects, not 100%, but they're kind of similar. So when we say coherence, it refers to a clear and logical stretch of speech, which can be easily followed by a listener. It means like whatever language you're saying and you're speaking is clear, and also it makes sense. And the listener can understand you pretty easily. And cohesion refers to, let's say, for example, the languages or the things that you're saying, let's say the structure is pretty organized and there's a flow to it. So I can understand where you're going, but the things that you're saying. It's not like, for example, from one topic you jump to another topic and I don't understand what's happening next, what happened before. And how can I achieve this? How can I try to get a good score and try to achieve coherence and cohesion? Well, basically, there are many ways you can do that. You need to use different things in order to achieve this. One of the things you can use is called cohesive devices. I'm going to talk about them in detail, so don't worry about all of these words that I'm going to say here. But one of it is cohesive devices. Another one is related vocabulary, grammar, and also discourse markers. So you need to learn them. You need to learn what these, let's say, cohesive devices are. You need to learn about related vocabulary, grammar, and discourse markers. Now, let's start with the first one, which is cohesive devices. Now, cohesive devices refers to those, let's say, set of words or phrases which we use to connect ideas with each other. Now, when I say connecting ideas, it's not just the same idea. Sometimes, for example, you want to add extra information. So how can you do that? You cannot just start a sentence with and saying something. So you need to use some words in order to show to the examiners that you are adding some information. Words such as and, which we all know that, but this is not the word that we want you to use for the speaking tests because we want you to get C1. So you need to use words, let's say, a little bit more sophisticated, such as in addition, moreover, furthermore. Sometimes you want to talk about the consequences of something. So you need to use words such as so, therefore, as a result. You want to talk about the order of information using like first, second, next, finally. Now, in order to get C1, you should not just use the simple cohesive devices. You need to use some more advanced and sophisticated. For example, instead of using and, but, finally, you can use some words such as therefore, moreover, as a result, in addition, however, on the other hand. Now, in each part of the speaking test, you need some, let's say, specific cohesive devices, which I will teach you, and I will give you all those cohesive devices in each part. But here are some examples that you need to use in order to get full score. And now, what else? Related vocabulary also refers to, for example, the topic is referring to, let's say it's related to traveling. So you need to use some words which is related to traveling, such as train, station, platform, for example. Imagine if the topic is that, or if the topic is related to study, so you say study, learn, revise, test, blah, 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 blah. So the vocabulary that you're using is related to the topic. Also, grammatical devices, such as, let's say, reference pronouns. For example, you said something, and then the next sentence, you don't want to say it again. So you say, this refers to blah, 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 blah. Now, the word this that you're using here refers to the previous sentence. So we understand that you're connecting your new idea or your new sentence to the previous one. It refers to what you mentioned before, rather than saying it again over and over again. So this is something that you're looking for. Using sometimes articles. For example, there are two women in the picture. The one on the right, you see how we're using articles here. So these are the things that you should try to add. Of course, I will give you more grammatical devices throughout the course so that you know what you have to use in each part. And we do also have the next part, which is discourse markers. Now, what are these discourse markers? You see, whenever you want to add meaning to what you're saying, we use some words such as actually, basically, by the way, I mean, anyway. So these words, we call them discourse markers, which we use them when we're talking mostly in order to add meaning to what we're saying, to create some kind of an interaction. And you should try to use them appropriately in each part and try to add them in your answers in order to, let's say, add some meaning to the things that you're saying, in order to make them more natural. Because this speaking test is basically something, it looks like a natural conversation. So it's not like a business English interview or something. No, it's a very casual conversation. So you should try to follow some not very formal languages is expected in this part. You should try to have a casual conversation. So using these words definitely will get you some marks. And it shows that you're trying to have a very natural conversation rather than something that you prepared like a lecture. Now, what else we have to understand about discourse management is extent or extended stretches of language. Now, stretches of language, it refers to making long answers. Now, in some part of the test, for example, part 3, part 4, you need to try to, let's say, create longer answers rather than short answers. Some questions in part 1, you should answer them pretty fast. You don't need to produce some kind of a long answer, because the question that they're asking in part 1 is somehow short and you don't need to explain too much. For that reason, for example, 3, part 4, some questions require, like, let's say, 45 seconds answer. And you should have some kind of asking questions, try to answering some questions in this part. So it requires some longer stretches of language. And sometimes when you are having some conversation with the other candidates, in that part, you need a little bit shorter. So because you want to give the other candidate also the time that he or she talks. So you should know how long your answers be in each part, which in each part I will explain that. I will tell you how long the answer should be. But basically, extending or stretches of language refers to this, how long your answers should be. Relevance is also something important, which refers to contribution that is related to the task and not about something completely different. Okay, for example, the topic is referring to sport, you're talking about the sport. You're not talking about something else, because in part 3, basically is a part that most candidates, they go sidetracks, they talk about something else, they talk about something that is not relevant to the task, because you've got 5 ideas referring to a question. And this is a part that mostly I've seen some candidates, they talk about irrelevant things. So try to keep it in the topic, not talking about other things. Because if you talk about things around the topic, you're not covering the topic. So we will take a look at some examples of this in the future in the course. So you will learn, for example, how to be relevant all the time with the answers. Now, another thing is also very important in discourse management, which the examiners are very, let's say, they want you to avoid using this, is repeating the same idea. For example, you said something about vacation, and again, you talk about the same thing over and over again. Now, this is something that shows the examiner you don't have enough languages or ideas to introducing new things. You're just saying the same thing. And that's what the examiners are definitely not looking to. So you have to try to introduce new ideas, try to develop the topic as you move forward, and try to avoid repeating the same thing. Now, this is referring to discourse management and how to get full score. So basically, you have to produce extended stretch of language with very little hesitation. It means when the examiners are asking you a question, you should not think 10 minutes, just have to start talking. Now, there are some times in the exam that I understand you need some time before you talk. In part 1, part 2, part, let's say, 4, you don't have time. You just basically have to start talking immediately after the examiner asks you a question. Part 3, you have a bit of time. But again, I will teach you some languages in order to also think and talk at the same time. So this is referring to produces the extended stretches of language and with little hesitation. And contributions are relevant. We talked about what does relevant mean, and there is a clear organization of ideas. Also, we talked about that. Uses a range of cohesive devices, which we said what kind of cohesive devices you have to use, and discourse markers. We talked about that as well. So when we say a range of, it refers to variety. You should not just use one cohesive device 10 times. You should use different types of cohesive devices. You should use different discourse markers so that you show to the examiners that you have pretty good language resources that you can use, and it's not just 1 or 2 words. So it's important to try to show variety of cohesive devices and discourse markers so that the examiners will get you 5 scores. All right, so in the next video, we're going to talk about pronunciation, which also is an important part. It's very easy to achieve 5 scores for your pronunciation, but you need to practice it. That's why at the end of this course, we also have a pronunciation course, which I will teach you everything about the pronunciation as well there, so that you get 5 score easily without any problem. So I'll see you in the next video.